Lois Lane claims to be a champion for justice. If she really believes that, then I challenge her to come here and debate me, face to face.
I see your point. And Superman in the building, let me tell you, it is. It's quite an honor.
It's just Clark.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Now that's a killer suit.
Alright, what is going on, guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. Superman and Lois gave us another massive turning point episode this week with the 8th episode of the 4th and final season. Directed by Michael Cudlett's Lex Luthor himself, Sharp-Dressed Man was another incredible episode. Dealing with the immediate fallout from Clark's reveal to the world that he is indeed Superman, diving into how it not only affects him, but his family and friends. Luthor has been able to regroup after his encounter with Clark in Smallville, and with the help of Amanda and Milton, is finally ready to enact his new plot to win over the opinions of the public. Clark's mortality and continued diminishing powers is also a pivotal plotline this week, bringing a theory back to the forefront that I've had since the beginning of the season. A couple of characters and actors finally appear this week as well that I know we had all been patiently awaiting. Spoiler warning for the final season of Superman and Lois through episode 8, but with that out of the way, let's suit up right into this breakdown. This was another week of what originally seemed like somewhat separate storylines, all converging by the end. The main focus, however, is of course Lex Luthor, as he is out for blood and ready to take back his reputation and return to the public eye, all while dragging Lois Lane down and questioning her integrity for sending him to prison for a crime he didn't commit. Lex gets the finishing touches on his brand new suit to go along with his fresh shave as he schemes with Amanda to ensure that everything goes according to plan. This version of Luthor has been far from the traditional businessman we are used to seeing, trading his traditional suit for a leather jacket most days. However, now he has to play the part to become the person he wants the world to see and adapt this alternative version of himself, which just so happens to look like the classic comic book Lex Luthor. That is one sharp-dressed man. Touching base with the Kents, Clark, Lois, and the boys are adjusting to their new normal now that Superman's identity has been revealed to the world. The DoD is paying personal visits to Clark to ensure everything is alright, while the boys have noticed their newfound fame in their day-to-day life, adding paparazzi dodging to their power set. As much as things have changed, they also stay the same. It's time for Lois's big final checkup to know once and for all that her cancer has been completely beaten. It's definitely an anxious time for both her and Clark. Fortunately, however, all of Lois's scans came back clean and she is completely cancer-free. Definitely calls for celebration, although this wouldn't be an episode if there wasn't some conflict thrown into the mix. Lex Luthor is on TV calling out Lois Lane as a liar, trying to draw sympathy from the public in order to improve his now tainted image. And this is also where we get our first glimpse of the show's take on Gordon Godfrey, played by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Tom Cavanaugh. In the aftermath of the shocking public callouts, Clark and Lois discuss ways in which to respond. Of course, Clark wants to take the high road with a response article, while Lois is ready to play into Luthor's games and accept his request for a live debate. Lex and Amanda strategize on how to approach this debate with Lois, all the while putting other pieces into motion so that everything goes according to plan and they both get what they want. John Henry and Natalie return this week as well, and the adjustment to their new job making weapons for the DoD is certainly weighing heavily on Natalie. She's doing it for her grandfather, but she's still struggling with the very similar dilemma that John and Jordan have had to deal with as well, balancing the life of a superhero with that of a normal kid. Eventually, by the end of the episode, coming to terms with the responsibility she has as Starlight to help the DoD defend the world from threats like Lex Luthor. Steel and Starlight must spring into action when they get an alert of an accident that is totally not a distraction and recon play set up by Amanda and Milton. Clark and Lois go to the Gazette so that they can work on her response to Luthor, but when it is discovered that their best witness was killed in prison, Lois's attention shifts back to the debate. Luthor even set up someone to throw a brick through the window, which Clark almost wasn't able to detect in time. John Henry was also present and asks Clark why he didn't react any quicker, to which he responds that he almost didn't hear it in time. This definitely raises some alarms for John, so they decide to run some tests to see how Sam's heart has affected Clark's body. It turns out not only has Clark been getting progressively weaker, his senses are diminishing and he's feeling more fatigued, and it is going to continue to progressively get worse. Clark's Kryptonian body is not accepting the human heart as well as they had hoped, and it is taking its toll on his system. John Henry predicts that eventually Clark will wake up one day and he will no longer be Superman, as his powers will eventually completely fade. This certainly sparked the revival of a theory I had very early on this season, but we'll come back to that one a little later on. It is debate time atop Luthor Core Tower as we see Lex and Amanda scramble to get everything set to expose Lois Lane. Lex is someone who takes great pride in the order of his business and plans, however, being kept somewhat in the dark from what Amanda and Milton are truly planning, coupled with the chaos of an entire TV crew in his house, he's certainly a bit shaken. When Lois and Clark arrive, we get a great meeting and introduction to Godfrey as Tom Cavanaugh perfectly plays that devious demeanor, as we know he's going to be siding with Luthor. Lois and Lex go back and forth questioning each other's integrity and bringing up their evidence to sway public opinion in their favor. Lex's wildcard was doctored footage of his confrontation with Clark in Smallville, once again trying to paint both Lois and Superman as the villains of this story. Lois Lane has a card of her own to play as she names Lex's daughter Elizabeth as her witness to all of his criminal activity. Before Lois's witness could sabotage Luthor's plan, however, Amanda gives Milton the go-ahead to create some chaos. He hacks into both the Steel and Starlight suits, distracting both Superboys and Superman long enough for Lex to take the win in the debate. John, Jordan, and Natalie were on a little side quest this week to help John win Candace back as she wanted to break up with him due to the newfound spotlight. They of course worked things out, leaving room for a little fun Superboy team-up as John and Jordan had to brother blast the hacked Starlight suit before it was too late. All the while, Clark is gently trying to take care of John Henry's suit as he's trapped inside with Milton at the helm remotely. Eventually, Brainiac is able to boot John Henry from his suit and bring it back to Luthor's subway base, and Clark is able to swoop in and save John in time. Following the debate, Godfrey gives one final monologue to his viewers, siding with Lex, leaving the viewer with the question of can Lois Lane be trusted? Also loved the little Flash reference when Godfrey said flashback and really emphasized the Flash. This places Clark and Lois in a difficult spot as now the public is starting to side with Luthor against Lois due to this injustice of the wrongful imprisonment and subsequent mistreatment from the Super Kent family. Clark and Lois sit the boys down to discuss his diminishing powers and the difficulties that might present for their family going forward without a Superman. closing out the episode with Lex and Amanda celebrating their victory as Luthor is beginning to win back the hearts and minds of the people. They also finally agree on the fact that they both want the same thing, and that thing is to be more than just business partners, which I'm sure we all saw telegraphed pretty early on. The villainous power couple check in on Milton back at the substation and admire his prize. Now that's a killer suit. Tons of theories from this week's episode, first of which we finally get to see Milton Fine, aka Brainiac, in the flesh. He has stepped out of the shadows and is finally playing a prominent role, assisting in Lex acquiring the base for his Lexosuit. I've seen some speculation that Brainiac may eventually become the true villain of the season, but given that this is the final season and we are going into the final 2 episodes, I just don't think that will be the case here. Maybe if we were going along with that original 7-season plan, sure, but now I think Brainiac is nothing more than a cool little Easter egg and a part of Lex's team here at the end of the season. Next up, we've got Clark's powers fading due to his body rejecting the older human heart from Sam Lane. It may have brought him back from the dead, but he's not only weaker than he was before, but continuing to lose more power each day. The only solution I can think to our problem here, bringing it back to my original theory this season, is of course Doomsday's heart. Last we saw him, Lois had talked the creature down, and I wouldn't be surprised that now with a weakened Superman, 2 rookie Superboys, and no Steel or Starlight suits, we would need some assistance in the final fight against Luthor. Maybe Doomsday sacrifices himself, which in turn allows Clark to use his heart as a fully powered Kryptonian replacement, saving his life and powers by the end of the series. The penultimate episode is also titled To Live and Die Again. It would only make sense that Clark's mortality is a major focus and potentially the quest for a true heart replacement, and who better to be a donor than someone who has continuously lived and died again in Doomsday. Finally, if the Super Sons are going to get their suits, it's gotta happen at some point in the final 2 episodes. Overall, guys, this episode certainly carried on the momentum from last week. After Clark's big identity reveal, we once again got another massive Lex Luthor-centric episode, made even better by the man himself, Michael Cudlitz, also behind the camera directing. It was great to see both John Henry and Natalie back this week. Their absence has been very noticeable this season, so it's always a plus to have them around. I know my hopes and theories surrounding Tom Cavanaugh's appearance was that he would end up being Brainiac, although I'm honestly super pleased he turned out to be Gordon Godfrey. No one could have predicted it, and it was absolutely perfect casting. We still got that classic Reverse Flash-esque I'm the smartest man in the room vibe from him, while getting to see a fan-favorite actor play a fun role in the Arrowverse one last time. I'm very excited going into the final 2 episodes here. It seems like we are in for a real treat. Clark's diminishing power and the search to try and fix that, Lex's quest for vengeance against Lois Lane, and everything else in between. Again, it is sad to be so close to the end, and just like the finale, it went by so fast. Just let me know your thoughts on everything Superman and Lois episode 8 from the 4th and final season. Do you think Clark will return to full strength or end the series off having to give up the mantle of Superman? What do you think of Lex's killer suit, and do you think Luthor and his team will emerge victorious, even if it's not in the traditional sense? Just let me know your thoughts on all of this down there in the comments below. But until next time, guys, it's been Tazz, and I'll see you guys in the next video.